Jesus freak here. In bringing up the topic of excommunication, I've had people think my reaction was extremely strong. When I said in one chat room, I said, if I were in a store and someone I knew were an excommunicate were the cashier, I'd drop the cart and walk. If it were reversed and I was a cashier, I'd leave the till and probably be forced to quit the job. And if I were walking down the street and someone I knew were an excommunicate was about to pass me by, I'd run across the street right away. And someone said, you're supposed to treat him as a heathen and a publican, not as a rabid animal. I said, well, rabid animal is still alive. And besides, the commandment that ends in treat him as a heathen or a publican is talking about someone where you have a beef and have gone with the church to try to resolve it and it failed. This is when the church itself has condemned a person. And then I said, I think there's a difference of definitions here where y'all are understanding excommunicate to mean one thing, whereas I'm understanding it to mean something completely different. And if you understand excommunicate in the lay sense, if you think excommunicate just means to throw someone out, sure, my reaction sounds a bit outre. But I asked someone, my uncle, about the word excommunicate. And at the time, he was studying for the ministry. And he said that according to our church, and I still belong to this faith tradition, excommunication is absolute and permanent. Basically, the way I understand an excommunication, it doesn't mean to kick someone out by itself. It doesn't mean simply get out. It means you're unpersoning them, cursing them, and damning them. So if you understand that when I hear the word excommunicate, that's the sense that I take it. That someone has been unpersoned, cursed, and damned to Gehenna, then my reaction might not exactly sound so outre. It might actually sound like I'm doing the moderate thing by treating the person like they're a walking disease. And in this context, saying that if I were excommunicated myself, I'd do something extreme to myself, makes more sense. Because, like I said, I'm not using the layman's definition, I'm using a strict religious definition. By the way, under this very same definition, now at least where I live, the legal boundary of a property is the middle of the street or the middle of the road. This is why, for example, when I pass by a certain place I used to live that I got thrown out of, I always walk on the opposite side of the street. Because they can legally have me arrested just for being in front of the building, just for being on the sidewalk in front of the building. Legally, they can do that. Well, with that in mind, and considering that certain beliefs that I hold to, like total depravity, are included in the Tridentine anathemata, means that if I'm in front of a church building and the church is Catholic, and I'm on the same side of the street or road as the church, it could be understood as desecrating a holy space if someone were to strictly follow what the Church of Rome would say and tie that with property laws and say, you're on the church grounds. To that church, you are an accursed thing. Your presence is desecrating the land. And as regards at least certain, I don't know how many Orthodox churches hold to anathematizing anyone who accepts the filioque. I believe most of them do. So the same holds there, that sensu stricto, if I were even on the same side of the street as the church, it could be seen as an act of desecration, just by being on the same side of the street. Like I said, this may sound extreme, but I believe that this is the standard definition that has pretty much been universal up until the 20th century. Of these terms. So, if I sound a little extreme with my reaction to excommunication, because you think I'm just talking about someone who's been kicked out of church, and I'm seeing it as someone's been damned to hell and unpersoned by the church. You might think my reaction is extreme, but if you're understanding things the same way that I am, that I have been taught, that I believe, it ceases to be outre and becomes completely logical, completely reasonable. Jesus freak out.